Champagne room.
Not wearing one.
All right. Welcome, everybody.
Yeah.
Welcome to Crossing the Streams. This is exciting. This is Crossing the Streams. We're here every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We're here to solve all of your what should I watch problems that you might have. But we're going to kick off like we always kick off. We have a special guest today, Tony, and he's going to do the theme song. Tony, take it away.
Oh, boy. Here's the story of some lonely fellows who spend way too much time watching TV. All of them have jobs and friends. Well, not really. Just between you and me.
Rosner.
They made a live show out of their hobby. Every TV watcher's TV watching dream. Jeff and Ron and Sal and Bob, and there's Howard. They call it Crossing Streams.
Run.
He needs to
And
work
then one day they went live on all the platforms. You could hear the people laugh and shout and scream, hooray! Still can't find another word that rhymes with platform, but man, we cross the streams.
We cross
the
streams.
We cross
the
the
streams.
That's the way we do it here.
We cross the streams.
Da, da, da.
Did you guys notice something? When we all have headphones and mics, there isn't feedback.
Is that how it
We're
works?
clicking.
Huh.
Amazing. Ladies and
Hello,
gentlemen,
Sal and Bob. Hello, Sal and Bob.
we do want
Notes
to
you.
welcome everybody to episode 32 of Crossing the Streams. We're excited to have you. As always, we have a special guest with us. I want to kick right off so everyone knows who he is. Tony Berardo. How are you, Tony? Welcome to the show. Tell us all about you. Start when you were young, work up to the 30 seconds.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm 36 years old, so I'm only going to spend about an hour and a half talking about myself. But no, my name's Tony. I live in Florida. Pretty much born and raised here my whole life. Background in health and fitness. I used to be a personal trainer. Now I'm in marketing. I work at Monster Energy with Roz over there, and I also host my own podcast too. So it's cool to be on another podcast. This is fun, where we talk about health, wellness, and geeky shit. On my YouTube channel, we even do reviews and trailer reactions and all types of stuff. So yeah, just excited to geek out. I'm like 2 glasses of wine in, and it's like it's 9:30 and my wife is asleep. So I'm down to clown. Let's do this, boys.
Tony, Lee says hi. Lee says hi. What is Tony, what's the name? Tony, what's the name of your podcast?
Oh, it's the Berardo podcast, which is my last name, Berardo podcast. So it's on all platforms.
Oh, we're getting complaints about Tony already. He's too good looking.
True.
Oh, hold on.
Dan, you're too good looking. That's what happened to you, an industrial accident.
Industrial accident.
Type of radioactive accident. Yeah, the Berardo podcast. We talk about all types of shit. So come join me, won't you?
Awesome. And if you're looking for more podcast fun, a lot of us have podcasts too. That's right. I have Live from Detroit, the Jeff DeWaskin Show, weekly podcast. Great interviews, current interviews with Catherine Mary Stewart from The Last Starfighter, Night of the Comet, Sal and Bob. They're not here, so we're going to skip over them, but check out their podcast. And if you go to somebutnobodies.com, Zach's got like amazingly 50 or so podcasts to check out. All amazing.
Hey, Ron, we need a podcast.
Seriously, Howard, what the
I
hell
have an
are we
idea.
doing?
We point out actresses and when they have nude scenes in movies. Has that been done? Has anybody done that?
So kind of like a really old, unimportant Mr. Skin. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
That would be
Crap.
that would be good.
I thought it was a unique idea.
So what we do here is we talk about TV shows. Last week on episode 31, can you believe it? We've done 31 episodes. Unbelievable. We talked about Kim's Convenience, Good on Paper, In Treatment, though the new version, not the one I use the image for, and Flatbush Misdemeanors. All amazing shows. I think we all agreed. And then today we got a good one. We got I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robertson. And so we're also going to talk about Detroiters, sort of a Tim Robinson double feature. We got My Octopus Teacher we're going to cover, Generation War, and then we're going to touch on Black Widow, which I happen to see. So I figured, let's talk about that. So as we do from week to week, we kind of catch up on some of the hot shows that are going. Loki finished today, so some of us woke up early so we could watch it. We're not going to give any spoilers, no spoilers, but I thought it was amazing. What did you think, Tony?
Yeah, I thought, like I was saying, there's one thing Marvel's great at, and I'm a DC fan. Like, you guys can't see this, but if you watch my YouTube channel, it's all DC. Like, I love DC. I'm so biased. Like, this is a Batman chair. Like, I'm a DC nut. But there's one thing Marvel is great at, and they continue to get better at. That is storytelling. These guys have spent a decade building so many different characters, and just when you think that a character couldn't go off and branch and do like a totally different thing, they do it with Loki, because it's a character you don't even think you want to see anything of. Like, you see him as a little sidekick of Thor, and it's little funny, sarcastic comments, but you see him in these 5-6 episodes, and you're just like, you dive into this character, and then the ending, just watch the fucking thing. It's crazy. It blows your mind that Marvel is able to think of this stuff. It was incredible. It's probably one of my favorite series, and I would even say adaptations of any type of comic book ever. Like, I'm super excited where it's going to be like in 2 years. Like, what it's going to build up in 2 years. I'm stoked.
What'd you think, Zach?
No, I loved it. I mean, like Tony said, the storytelling that the Marvel can do, especially visually, is stunning. I mean, you think like Civil War, and that was just a fight, and then you get to Infinity War and Endgame, where we're going back in time a little bit, and it's crazy. And now you watch Loki, where it's like, dude, there's just, and then this last episode, the exposition dump that you kind of get at the end is literally 12 years of comics that I read, all condensed down to 5 minutes of a conversation. So it's beautifully done, well executed, top-notch acting. But yeah, this show was so well put together and so interesting, and finished perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Zach, let me ask you guys the question for those of us who have no experience with this character or this part of the universe. Can you jump into it and still get it and still be okay?
If you like the MCU and you're caught up in that and you can get into Endgame and understand that, this is that. It's that splash with Rick and Morty, and that's pretty much it.
It's fine. But to Tony's point about the character development, I think that's what they've always been great at that. And I think they did that with Iron Man. And we think now of Iron Man as like this amazing A-level superhero, but Iron Man was kind of he was not a main character
real
by any
man.
means. Yeah. Well, he was like a B, C at best, maybe, and so, but they elevate all the characters. They just give them such great, even with WandaVision, I think they increased my appreciation for like Scarlet Witch.
Not only that, but it's what? How many movies now since, in the MCU? 23, 24 movies, 28. Yeah. And now multiple TV shows. And to have the forethought to connect those that far in advance, and then know that they're gonna do at worst decent enough to drive it forward. I mean, the only thing they didn't really do is, I know they've come out and said that the original Marvel TV shows, the Netflix shows, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are now officially not part of MCU canon. Which is sad, because Daredevil, the original Daredevil, and Jessica Jones. I shouldn't say the original Daredevil, because that brings nauseous thoughts of Ben Affleck to mind. But the Daredevil TV show on Netflix and Jessica Jones was a superb series. So I wish those were part of it.
But I think they're bringing those. They might bring those characters with those actors into.
That'd be great, because what they obviously would be great to bring into it would be, you could easily bring like the Champions as a series from the comic books, which was great. Bring those characters in. So yeah, it'll definitely be interesting.
I even heard that Charlie Cox was spotted on the set of the Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Did you
I
guys-
saw that as well. Yeah.
So it'd be intriguing, and that's what's crazy about like, God, I can't talk about Loki without talking about it, man.
I know.
It's 'cause
But
right.
I think the coolest thing that Loki did, though, which really shocked me from the very beginning, was they let you know immediately how unimportant the Infinity Stones were, how stupid of a concept that was. Like, oh, these things, remember that? You cared about that? That's nothing. Get out of here. We are moving on way past that, and I think that's so cool. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. It is so cool.
And speaking of moving on past it, it's time for the Netflix
Yeah!
Metrix with Zach Wiseman.
All right. So if for some reason you don't know what I'm doing, I have tasked myself with watching this very stupid category that popped up on Netflix a couple months ago called the Top 10 in the US. So what this is what the majority of people watch yesterday. It shows up on this thing today. And out of 75 million people that have Netflix United States, this is the garbage that they watched yesterday. So number 10, we still have that Too Hot to Handle, which is that trashy trash show that is so easily consumed. But yeah, not good, but watch it, whatever, don't care. Number 9, Fear Street Part 1. We talked about that last week. That's that 1994 episode 1 of the Fear Street trilogy. Not good, talked about it, move on. Number 8, The Cook of Castamar, aka La Cocinera de Castamar. This is a Spanish 18th century show set in Madrid, and the plot follows a love story between an agoraphobic cook and a widowed noblewoman. Yeah, honestly, beautiful locations, decent performances, but script is absolutely garbage. Created by Tatiana Rodriguez, stars Michelle Jenner, Roberto Enriquez, and Hugo Silva. Yeah, it's just cool to look at, but every time I try to listen to it, I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. So yeah. Watch it if you want. It's up to you. Number 7, one of the coolest things that I saw on Netflix recently, Major Grom, Plague Doctor. Now, this is a movie that popped up about 5 days ago. Now, Police Major Igor Kram is known throughout St. Petersburg for his penetrative character and irreconcilable attitude towards criminals of all stripes. But everything changes dramatically when the appearance of a person in a mask of the Plague Doctor, having declared that the city is sick with the plague of lawlessness, and he takes up treatment, killing people who at one time escaped punishment with the help of money and high status in society. Directed by Oleg Trofirm, written by Vladimir Besedev. These guys have not made anything at all, but I tell you what, this is one of the coolest things I've seen. It's based on a Russian... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, so Russian Batman is basically it.
Oh man, way better than that. It is bigger and cooler. So it's based on a Russian comic series called like the Bubble Comics, and Grom translates to thunder. So technically his name is Major Thunder, and he is crazy. So yeah, it's like if Batman and Judge Dredd got together and you splashed like sicknesses in there. It is so weird and cool. The special effects were way better than I anticipated. And they're actually building a universe. So this is part 1 of a big universe that Russia is trying to put out there. So check it out. Number 7. Number 6.
Russia's the most wealthiest country in the world, so they should afford a big.
Yeah, they're not good at special effects. They do have a lot of money, so they'll get there. Number 6 is the second part of the Fear Street trilogy. This one's set in 1978, showed about 5 days ago. Set in Shadyside, 1978. School's out for summer, and the activities at Camp Nightwing are about to begin. But when another Shadyside is possessed with the urge to kill, the fun of the sun becomes a gruesome fight for survival. Directed by the same person, Lee Janik. This one actually is good. The first one, not that great. Second one, they build so much more onto it. It's so intriguing to watch. I don't know if it's because it's set in the year that I was born, 1978, probably not. But it just is good. It has that old school kind of like Friday the 13th feel because it is set in the 70s. It is a summer campy thing. But this movie, you actually see the thread storyline that comes from the first one, and you can tell it's going to go into the third one. So pretty excited. Check it out. Number 5, Cocomelon. Okay, so Loki's done. I had nothing else to watch, so I dove into Cocomelon and I found something out. What I found out is that the kids in Cocomelon are named Cece, Bella, and Nico, which when I did a little bit of Googling, it turns out that those are the same names as the children of Chris Watts, which is disgusting. If you don't know, Chris Watts is a dad from 2018 who did some unspeakable murders of his wife and 2 children. For some reason, Cocomelon is based on these children because they wanted to give these kids who died early
That's
something
not
to do.
creepy at all.
I cannot believe this. I hate it. So now I'm going to dive a lot more time, spend a lot more time into the Cocomelon. Please watch the show.
I love how much Zach watches stuff.
Dude, I will hate watch anything, especially
The
like
anger watches.
yeah. Number 4, Sex Life, absolutely trash. Please skip that thing. Number 3, Atypical. I know Jeff's going to speak on this. This is a cool show. I'm not sure, Jeff, if you want to talk about this at all, or if I should just ramble on for a little bit longer.
You can ramble a little bit, and then I'll chime in.
All right, cool. So this is about Sam. Now, Sam is an 18-year-old. He's on the autism spectrum, and he decides it's time to find a girlfriend, and a journey that sets Sam's mom on her own life-changing path as her son seeks more independence. So the season 4 just popped up on Netflix, created by Robia Rashid, stars Jennifer Jason Leigh, who does a phenomenal job. Also stars Keir Gilchrist and Bridget Lundy Payne. So first chapter, phenomenal. Really got into it. Love the characters. Love the setting. It's charming. It's sweet. It's intense. It's deep. It's great. By season 4, though, you really learn who these characters are. You really get a great understanding of some backstory of the surrounding characters, and it really just adds a lot more just heart and emotion to the show. Jeff, what do you think?
I agree. I love the show, and as you move on, Michael Rappaport is the father, Jennifer Jason Leigh is the mom, and they're both good, but the least interesting of the characters, like the friends and the sister, and everybody is so great. But it's just a great show. I was so happy that it came back. This is its final season, so you can catch up and kind of wrap it all up in the 4 seasons. I'm about 6 into the season, and it's really good. So definitely check that out. We reviewed it on an earlier episode, but still highly recommend it.
Yeah, absolutely charming show. You cannot help but smile when the show's on. Number 2, Manifest. It is that garbage show about that weird missing airplane. I don't understand why people are watching this stuff, but there's nothing else but seriously get into Cocomelon because there's something dangerous in there.
Wait a minute.
Why is this back, this show? I just don't understand how that ended up in the Metrix.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand. Season 1 was okay. Episode 1 of season 1 was
Everyone's
fine.
watching it. Every fucking person I talk to is watching that. I haven't
gosh.
turned it on because I refuse to.
It makes
I'm like, this is idiotic.
it's crazy.
Like Lost Light.
Right.
Exactly. It's like the first episode of Lost stretched into a full series, and you're like, I don't even care anymore. Like after episode 2, I just do not care. But yeah, people are really getting down on that, but that's fine. Number 1 is a show called Virgin River. Now this is about seeking a fresh start. A nurse practitioner named Melinda Monroe moves from Los Angeles to a remote Northern California town and is surprised by what and who she finds. Created by Sue Tenney, stars Alexandra Breckenridge and Martin Henderson. This is a poop romance thing that for some reason Netflix seems to kind of throw out some kind of hallmarky garbage every once in a while. This is it. It's full of cliches. It's full of everything you possibly think of. You could literally write down 5 things you think is going to be in this movie, and you will be 100% correct. Pass on it. Watch Cocomelon, or more importantly, watch that crazy Grom thing. That is so cool. But yeah, so that's the garbage that people watched yesterday, and I am sorry you had to hear me talk about it today, but I appreciate it. Thank you very
Nice
much.
job.
And this has been the
Nice
Netflix Metrix.
Wow, we need stingers. There's no question.
Yeah, come on. We could. I mean, 32 shows now. You should have a stinger, brother.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
We need an audio engineer. Maybe if we had an audio engineer, we'd be able to hear Sal and Bob every once in a while.
Yeah, I just hope my name gets put in those opening songs at some point. I don't need a stinger. I just need.
I know we have to redo the front end. We weren't sure if Bob was leaving, so honestly, I waited, and then he came back. So then, I gotta figure out how to update.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
No,
I appreciate it. I love you guys. You're doing great.
We just don't have enough syllables.
Fair.
You're awesome. You're awesome. We're gonna have to get rid of somebody else. All right, let's go on to Generation War. Let's talk about Generation War. This is yet another Ron Levitt classic.
I mean, come
Ron,
on.
talk to us about
I
Generation
appreciate it.
War.
Thank you, Jeff. I don't imagine any of you guys have seen this show, Generation War. First off, I'll just say right from the get-go, the worst thing about this show on Amazon Prime is its name, Generation War. It is a German show from 2013 set in 3 parts. And the title was Unsere Mutter and Unser Vater. For those of you who speak German. So I don't know where Generation War, how that became Englishized, only to the extent that it's a story about 5 friends, five German Berlin suburb friends who go on various paths in the outbreak of World War II. And, 2 of them are German soldiers. One of them is an aspiring actress. Another one is an aspiring nurse. And the 5th friend is a Jewish man. These guys are lifelong 20-year-old friends. And it's a really fascinating story about how this war completely changes them and kind of what is waiting for them in the 3 years that they feature them. So it's super interesting from the standpoint that it gives you the German perspective on the war, which I don't know from an American audience you see much of that. It's completely subtitled in English from German and Polish, depending upon what part of the show you're in. Like I said, it's 3 parts. This was originally shown on the German public broadcasting. It was made for German public broadcasting, their version of PBS. And then eventually Amazon bought the rights to it and put it out just a few years ago, even though it was, I think at the time when Amazon bought the rights to it, it was already 5 or 6 years old. But it is yet again another terrific foreign film, I should say mini series, I guess. When you think of it, these are hour-long episodes, 3 episodes, so it's 3 hours. So, I always wonder, why do you have to divide that into 3 separate shows? Like, couldn't you just make that a 3-hour movie? Maybe you could. I don't know. It's the same thing, Zach. You and I have talked about this for a while. So I guess I will give it a knock on that, because I don't understand why it has to be 3 separate episodes. But the acting is fantastic. I think the storyline is very compelling. It's a dark show, I'm not going to lie, but it is a story that grabs you. It's a the changes to these characters are immediate and compelling. The acting is fantastic. The production is fantastic. It's directed by a guy named Philip Kadelbach, who is only does German shows, so you're not going to know his work. But if you go and Google him, you'll find out this guy's done dozens and dozens of award-winning shows in Germany. So that it's well thought out, well produced, and I love these foreign films that give Americans perspective from a completely foreign, foreign sense. So, listen, it's super interesting from the get-go. I think you guys will find that there's nothing boring about this show. It's not trite with the storylines. I don't think that there's a lot. There is violence, but I think the violence is appropriate. It's not over the top. It's not gory. It's not disgusting. And there's not a lot of sex. It's just great storytelling in 3 hours. So that's a pretty quick review on a terrible named show, Generation War, but highly recommend it. And I think you guys should take a look at it.
Did you go all 3 hours, or did you space it out? Did you binge it? What'd you do?
Yeah, you binge it. It's because it's honestly the stories. It's the same story it's like you're watching one story. They just cut it into 3 parts. So I don't feel like it doesn't feel right to stop on one episode, because you want to know what's going to continue on with the story. So it's pretty quick. Yeah.
A couple of things about foreign films. It's funny because I always often used to struggle watching foreign things because of subtitles. It took me out of it. But as we've talked about a couple of times on the show, and especially as I get older, my eyes get worse and my hearing gets worse. I've been rewatching shows American shows with the subtitles now, because it just helps.
It does.
We
talked about that.
Yeah, we've talked
Yeah.
about it a bunch. Certain
Yeah.
shows, it just helps. The other thing that I find interesting when you talk about these foreign shows is, Ron and I were part of a text chain with a friend of ours who was just couldn't grasp the European Championships of soccer and a lot of the intricacies of it. And frankly, it was such an Americanized argument. Like he struggled with the shootout as a way to end a championship, but he's perfectly fine with guys being carted out on backboards with spinal injuries every week in American football because I don't care. They make money. It was such an Americanized argument. And that I think comes through that those different attitudes, not that attitude specifically, but when you watch some of these foreign movies, it doesn't come from the same perspectives
It's true.
that we have here in the United States. It comes from entirely different perspectives. And I think that's probably why a lot of these shows are so unique, because of that.
I agree with you, Howard. I think that's well said. And what's interesting from my standpoint, because I talk a lot about foreign films with subtitles, and we talk about a lot on the show here. This particular one is interesting because there is no English in this show. It is entirely German and Polish. So it is literally a translation that you're reading through the words. And somehow it doesn't matter. I think it's still well done. It doesn't affect the way you take in the show. The other thing, I'll just say this, as a Jewish guy, I was worried heading into this show that this would somehow be some kind of an apology or some type of explanation for why the Holocaust was able to happen. And I was really pleased to see that that wasn't the case with this at all. As a matter of fact, I think it was more helpful to understand how the Holocaust happened from the perspective of German kids that had to go through it and became ultimately part of the process that led to the Holocaust. Sure. Listen, it's history. My kids make fun of me because I watch every World War II documentary there is out there. I'm old. That's what we do. And this is an excellent, I think, addition to that. I think this is very, very well done.
Well, we've talked about the subtitles, watching it, and it helps because then you do catch things that you didn't. Oh, I thought those birds were chirping, but I didn't realize they were chirping "Ring Around the Rosie." You know what I mean? It adds like a whole thing, like things that are in the script that you just never would have noticed that you can then appreciate.
Honestly, another one of the things that I love about subtitles in a lot of the shows that we're watching is when it pops up and tells you what song is playing in the background.
That's nice.
You're like, oh, that's who sings that song. Now I can find that on Spotify. Right. There you go.
Just pull out your Shazam app. All right, let's move on to the next one, and then we can circle back. I watched Black Widow. Black Widow, which is available in movie theaters, and it is also streaming. According to the reports, it made just as much money streaming as it did in the movie theaters. It made a bucket load of money. Like I think it said it's the biggest post-pandemic movie, dollar-wise, ever.
Somebody's going to have to explain that to me. Maybe not on this show, but someone's going to have to explain to me how they make that much money.
It's the fucking only movie that came out in the past 12 months. That's why.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, marketing. That's what marketing. It's the biggest movie with the word widow in it.
That's right.
Can you believe it? So just to kind of put in perspective, Black Widow, I was watching because it happened to be on Wonder Woman 1984. I will go back on record as saying Wonder Woman 1984 is horrible, like beyond horrible.
Garbage.
And the original I love. The original Wonder Woman I thought was really good and enjoyable. And I love Gal Gadot. But Wonder Woman 1984 was horrible. Now, if you go back to Iron Man 2, when Black Widow was introduced, she was due a movie well before Captain Marvel and Wonder Woman. Scarlett Johansson should have been the first female movie, and she definitely deserved it. She has kicked ass in the MCU since Iron Man 2.
She's been in more of the MCU movies than anybody else, correct?
I think. Woman for sure. I don't know about everyone else, but
she's got to be right up there. But
I think she has because she was in. I think she is, if I'm not mistaken.
So I loved Black Widow. I really liked it a lot. I thought it was really, really good. I thought it was just action packed. It was just boom, 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 boom. It was a little confusing in the beginning when they do the flashback with her and her sister are kids because they couldn't figure out which one was which. But maybe I just missed something. Sometimes you miss something. Anyway, but it's a movie that it kind of has a whole family tone to it as well. David Harbour, Rachel Wise play their Russian parents in the beginning. This is Scarlett Johansson as Natasha Romanoff, and then Florence Pugh, is it Pugh, as Yelena, and she's great, and she's the one kind of taking the mantle now. And I thought she was freaking amazing. Like she's like, if you could say, how could we find a new person? Like sometimes when they blend into someone else, you're like, not as good. Like I could see this person make you forget at some point about Scarlett Johansson. I mean, we'll always remember in our hearts, but you know what I mean? Like she's that good of a character, I think, and she plays it that well. And David Harbour from Stranger Things plays the Red Guardian? He's like the the Russian Captain America, and he's obsessed with Captain America. But if you can assume from the MCU, from what Captain America probably doesn't even know he exists.
So can I ask an honest question? Do you guys, and be honest here, forget about looks for a second, is Scarlett a good actress?
Yeah.
100%.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
It's hard to, I mean, it's just like anything else, right? Robert Downey Jr. is a fantastic actor, but you can't justify his performances off of Iron Man because it's so hard to like get out of it. Like it's even though he's great in that, but like if you're outside looking in, because it's so comic booky, it's hard to sell to yourself, oh, he's a good actor in a comic book movie. But Scarlett Johansson, if you see her outside a comic book movie, she's even better than she is as Black Widow, in my opinion.
Her performance in Lost in Translation.
Is what I always think. Her was excellent, actually. Yeah,
Jojo Rabbit.
And she was
Jojo Rabbit. She's great. What was the Woody Allen film that she was in? Where she was dating or hooking up with the brother of her fiance.
Louis C.K. in that too, I think.
I don't know.
Kevin Spacey in there too. But the thing about Tony Stark though, like they modeled Tony Stark after Robert Downey Jr. That's the thing. Like he is just Robert Downey Jr. Scarlett Johansson is actually playing a character. She is acting, and she is a phenomenal actor and was put up with some trash for a long time. And I'm glad she got a movie. I wish that it was better, but yeah.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I thought it was a good movie. William Hurt's in it. He plays Ross again. So they're definitely threading his character into, that could be a Thunderbolts thing, right? Yeah. With the Taskmaster, I got to say, I didn't really know the character, so it didn't bother me. Okay. So
disappointing.
I don't know if someone will have to explain at some other point what possibly I missed from that, but not being familiar with the character, I had no issue with the character. But other than that, and then this was, of course, what was supposed to be the original Julia Louis-Dreyfus cameo and introduction to the MCU, but Falcon and Captain America came first, or Winter Soldier, Captain America came first. By the way,
I'd love to talk. Sorry, man. I'd love to talk about. Doesn't have to be on this one, but another time. What they plan to do with those other characters. Oh my God, I'm excited about that. If you follow the comics, that is just again, this is what we talk about, right? Storytelling, movies and series. Marvel has been able to intertwine these universes. It's almost like you're at home watching Disney Plus, and you could also go to the theater and you see these different movies and series kind of intertwined, and it's wicked crazy to watch, man. But I think they're going to do some crazy things with Julia Louis-Dreyfus. So.
Yeah. Well, it's not Zach. You didn't like the movie as much as I did.
I found it it does not exist. It's the Solo of Star Wars series. Like they answer questions that no one asked. Nothing really happened. It was a subpar spy movie. There was twists that did not need to be there. None of it made it. Like none of it was made any sense really. And
it came out 5 years ago.
But there's nothing to it. Like it's sure it's a spy movie, but like it's not as good as Mission Impossible. It's fine.
I agree.
It's a James Bond. It's a James Bond film.
It's like, oh,
everything should make sense. You know,
like how'd she get her blonde hair? Oh, cool. Now I know. Like, how'd she get that vest from Infinity War? Like, oh, all right, now I know. That's cool. And even the Taskmaster thing, like the fact that they made you think that it was a man in the commercials for some unknown reason makes no sense when there's a reveal later. You're like, why is that a reveal? Because now that just takes away her entire character.
I never thought it was a male. I think that was you just projecting your American.
No, even the commercials, like, hey, who's that guy? Black Widow takes no character arc whatsoever. She doesn't learn anything. She doesn't go anywhere. We find out that she actually has a family, which makes her twist in Infinity War that much worse because she's like, well, I did have a sister, but I guess Hawkeye is more important to me for some reason. Entertaining. I will not watch it a third time.
A third time. He's already watched it twice. Well, I enjoyed it. Look, she already had her arc. This was just like an adventure, right? So I mean, you didn't need like her to do anything. She already had her full arc. If this didn't exist, she had the arc. This was just kind of like giving her due in terms of telling a bit of a story. I enjoyed, but they also, she didn't have. What was that?
I was going to say, this is what I'm saying is I think it should have came out before.
Yeah.
Arc. I mean,
way before.
This is
but they were too afraid to make a woman-led superhero movie.
Yeah. They should have came out before Captain Marvel. Like I would rather have this before Marvel, even though it was great. But it's like, now she's like, this is how she's ending. This is his, it's over.
Yeah. Bye. Or this in between Infinity War and Endgame. That'd have been stunning. That'd have been stunning. But this is 2 hours of you just saying, here's Florence Pugh. That's it. That's all this is. It's like now she's Black Widow.
Most Marvel stuff is Loki was all 6 hours of a setup. I mean, it was beautiful, but it was just 6 hours of setup, right? I mean,
but even Loki, the series, or even Falcon and Winter Soldier, the plot was driving towards something. The word that I kept using in talking about Black Widow is it was just thin. Like it was just there was just nothing there. And I liked it. Don't get me wrong. Visually superb. Yeah. And part of that is the bar that the MCU has set with even TV shows. It's accept. I mean, we talked about it. The last 2 episodes of Falcon and Winter Soldier would have been one of the best movies of all the MCU films. It was that good. So our expectations, it wasn't bad. It was well visually. It just lacked.
Yeah, very entertaining. But the thing about the TV shows, like when you look at every TV shows, it's all a character study. It's who are these as people? Who do they get to become? When you look at Falcon and Winter Soldier, they both took amazing arcs. When you look at Loki, even though he already took an arc before Ragnarok, now he had to take another arc, which is a better arc. When you look at WandaVision, that was her beautiful arc of trauma and everything. When you look at Black Widow, it's like you read a book and you forgot to read a chapter and you go back and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, it was just set up for the new Black Widow. She already had her arcs, so they couldn't make an arc that could by any means impede the other arcs. So, I mean, I enjoyed it. I'm going to have to go on record as saying everyone here is wrong but me, and we're going to move on. We're going to move on.
Fair enough.
No, but I think that's the beauty of entertainment and art. It's subjective, and we can all enjoy it differently. Speaking of which, let's move on. You got plenty of time. Tony,
I was going to say.
It's your turn, Tony. We're going to talk about My Octopus Teacher. This is about a teacher who becomes an octopus.
He grows 6 additional limbs. No, so this is an oldie but goodie. And I saw the content that you guys have been putting out and all the different things. And again, I like to talk about a vast amount of different crazy geeky things and also great movies and action pack. This was one thing because I'm a documentarian nut where I just love sitting back and just watching documentaries, like binging them. This was super interesting. Have you guys seen this, by the way?
I saw the beginning of it, and it is super interesting.
Love it.
So let me tell you. First,
I knew an octopus in middle school, but
what was her name? Was she good?
She was really handsy.
Heyo.
Well played, sir. So, first of all, let me tell you my fascination with octopus, not octopi.
Hi.
I believe it's octopuses. In case you wanted to know, but my fascination with octopuses is for the past 10, 15 years. I've always been fascinated. In fact, if you have Instagram, go to Octonation at Octonation, and you will see some crazy octopus shit like you've never experienced before. Like these things are alien, right? Like we know they're alien. We know we can't even understand them or comprehend them. But when you see some of the shit that goes on this Instagram page, there's so many different types of octopus, and the animal is just incredible. It's magnificent. It's gorgeous to look at, but just the way they move and what they can do is crazy. I say that, I build it up because you don't know going into this documentary that that's what that is, because you're going to get an hour and 25 minutes of not just this guy who just happens to go to South Africa every day in the freezing cold weather, and he just swims. He takes a snorkel. He doesn't throw on any gear, just a snorkel and some goggles, and he just goes down and he goes in this this ocean right outside his house, and he just swims and he looks around, and then he always documents it. So one day he decides to document his entire journey, 2, 3, 4 hours, whatever. And he ends up finding this little tiny octopus. And this octopus, you could tell, was a baby, I would imagine. And it starts following him. And his fascination with the octopus turns now into, instead of documenting his entire journey swimming, now it's just solely to this octopus. Long story short, he goes back home and he looks at the footage. He's like, this is incredible. Like this thing, has like a brain, like it's learning and it's feeding off my emotion. Like he really dissects this thing apart. So he decides to follow this octopus for an entire year, and he documents the entire journey. So spoilers ahead, there's a lot of crazy 8-legged things that happen, and including him defending off sharks, the octopus, and he's capturing all this. So you get a chance to see all this and see how the octopus lives and how it camouflages itself when it's in danger. It's just an incredible story, and you get attached to not just the guy, but also the octopus. And then by the end of it, there's just this weird relationship that you should have. If not, you're dead inside. But you should have this really incredible creature that we don't know really anything about. And I forget his name, but I think it's like something Foster, the guy who did it. And I think he took the proceeds of this film. It won a lot of awards, and he actually put it to the conservation and studying of octopus, because that year journey that he did, some researchers have never seen an octopus do. So it's pretty interesting to see him go through this journey, but it's definitely worth the watch if you enjoy documentaries as a whole, or if you enjoy good storytelling. This is part of it, and I recommend it on a nice big TV. If you got some lights or something in the background to go behind the TV, because it's like an Avatar style, beautiful filmmaking. So highly recommend. Zach,
Awesome.
your input as well.
I feel guilty. The last time I saw an octopus, it was grilled and on my plate. I feel horrible now. I feel horrible.
Give it a couple seconds after I build that peak of
Wow.
I know, but it's
Wow.
Dude, it down.
That's how good it was.
I'm here to speak the truth.
It's like how intelligent these creatures are, and it's like, yeah, I ate one.
Yeah, they taste fucking delicious.
Yeah,
too.
they're just a little Worcestershire. They're fantastic.
They're supposed to be like dogs. They have the intelligence of dogs, so you can train them and have them do tricks and all that stuff. They also have beaks. Did you guys know that?
Yes, I did know.
Yeah, the most fascinating thing I got from it that I didn't even know, and I follow octopus like a lot, maybe too much. But there's this one scene where he takes a bunch of seashells that are around him, the octopus, and he sees predators coming, and he takes the shells and he turns them, and he puts all of his 8 legs over him. So now the shell is like a shield all around him, and the predator couldn't attack him. It's just it's crazy shit like that you don't even know fucking happens. Nuts.
I bet
Zach,
that
you saw it?
I bet that
Oh,
octopus on my plate wish he had a shell.
Yeah, it's very cool. I like learning anything, and I'm like one of these smart people that tells everybody everything. And when I learn something, it's like, oh, I didn't know that. But yeah, like when you learn that it's not octopi, it's octopuses. When you learn that like they don't have legs, they have arms, they're not tentacles, they're actually just arms. And then each one has like kind of its own like brain thing. Dude, octopuses are so
back, by the way.
Yeah, dude, octopuses are so cool. And that documentary was one that I went into it looking for just knowledge on octopuses, and I actually fell in love with just the idea of it. Like, this dude just loves this thing, and he just loves the ocean, and it's so interesting and slow, and actually a really well done documentary. So yeah, I everything that Tony said, 100% agree. Yep.
Yeah. Respect, and they taste fucking delicious too.
Oh. Speaking all right. Well, that was I'm gonna check that out.
Coconut
and then maybe,
octopus.
yeah.
There's breaded octopus.
Octopus sandwich.
All right. Well, let's move on. We got a Tim Robinson love fest.
Yeah.
Let's start with I think you can leave. I think you should leave.
Well, actually, I'm gonna go back and do.
You want to start with Detroiters?
Yeah, I'm gonna Tarantino it, and then I'll come back. I'm gonna do
Okay.
the front part. Yeah. So, I was preparing to do I Think You Can Leave for this show, and it reminded me. So, I Think You Can Leave is a show by Tim Robinson. It's a sketch comedy show, and it reminded me why I fell in love with Tim Robinson's comedy in the first place was a show that was on a couple of years ago, 2 seasons, called Detroiters. You can get it now on Comedy Central. It was a Comedy Central show, or Paramount Plus. Detroiters, especially funny for those of us who live here in Detroit, because every show had ridiculously local references that were from our childhood. Ron, Jeff, and I just amazing references. But even without the references, I went back and started watching old Detroiters episodes the last couple of days. It's absolutely hysterical. Tim Robinson is an amazing writer. And then Sam Richardson, who was in Detroiters with him, played Richard Splett on Veep, was the DJ guy in Office Christmas Party, who's absolutely hysterical. He's starting to show up in more and more and more things because his delivery is superb. He's this quiet, soft, but intelligently funny delivery that's amazing. Detroiters is an exceptional show. It is laugh out loud funny, and the two of them play off of each other so well. So I went back and watched Detroiters, and then I finished watching the new season, the second season of I Think You Can Leave.
Well,
it's one of the most. Go ahead. Yeah.
Detroiters. A bunch of my friends were in Detroiters who were comics that did acting, so it was always fun to see them. It was filmed all around Detroit. I've never been more upset, I think, when a show didn't get repicked up is when Comedy Central did not pick up Detroiters.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what they were thinking. I mean, it was seriously one of their best shows. I always wondered what people outside of Detroit maybe thought of it.
Yeah.
But
there's just for as an example of kind of some of the humor, there's an episode, the title of the episode from the first season is named Mort Krim. Which it's a great episode in and of itself. Mort Krim was the news anchor of the 90s and early thousands that on the #1 network, local network here in Detroit. And they paint him as a guy that they have to go find in a pool hall, like a dirty pool hall bar, to try and get him to do some stuff for him. It's just a hysterical episode in and of itself, but then even funnier because it's so they paint his character the opposite. Another episode, it's an episode called Rick Mahorn, something in Dearborn, a city in Detroit. Rick Mahorn, the ex-Pistons great, who's a friend of mine that I worked with for a number of years, and they're making fun and making of a used car guy that we all grew up with, his commercials, named Melfar Superstar. And they're basically making fun of it. But it's just funny in and of itself. It's a great show. It's super well written. And the delivery of both those guys is great. Again, you flash to the new show, I Think You Can Leave. It's sketch comedy it's a little anthology sketch comedy in that a lot of the sketches kind of even come back in future episodes as references. It's a lot of workplace jokes that are great. It's to me, I think it's the best taped sketch comedy show since Chappelle Show. I think it's just it's not on the level. I don't think it's on the level. Chappelle Show might be the best sketch comedy show ever.
Yeah.
But this is
pretty close.
Smart. It's a great, there's so many memorable characters in the show. There's one guy who he like one sketch where he's at a party and he goes to hold a baby and the baby cries when he holds it, and he starts talking about how the baby must know that he used to be a piece of shit, but not anymore. And the whole skit gets to the point where everybody's going, we all know you used to be a piece of shit, but not anymore. And then it's just the whole episode goes that direction. There's another one that's a fake commercial for a movie, a trailer for a movie starring named Cratchmore, this crotchety detective. And the actor who plays Cratchmore is Santa Claus. And then they do a panel show, and they go to ask him, how does it affect his work with Christmas? And he starts to take off his microphone and leave the interview because I made it very clear I don't want to discuss Christmas, but you're Santa Claus. And it's just a brilliant show. Tim Robinson's a great writer. He was one of the few, I guess, that he was a featured player on Saturday Night Live, and he dropped from doing that to going to be a writer. And there's very few people that have gone that route. It's kind of been the other route. So he's a brilliant writer. It's a great watch, an easy watch. I highly recommend it.
They never really found a spot for him on Saturday Night Live.
Right.
So when you think of the name of the show, I think you should leave. It's the type of humor that this show is. That's how you feel about the main character in any one of these sketches. The shows are like 15 to 17 minutes each, and there's usually about, say, 3 sketches in each one. So if you think about the guy at a party or something, and you're like, oh, I wish this guy would leave. That's every main character in every one of these skits. Tim Robinson is very generous in the sense that it's not always him that's the focus. He does let other people sometimes take leads. There's one where, I'll tell you, this is from first season. So if you haven't seen second season, there's a crash in a building. A hot dog car crashes into a building. The whole crowd is standing around. No one will take responsibility for who crashed this hot dog mobile into this building, right? Tim Robinson is wearing a hot dog costume. But the whole time he's playing it straight, like, who did this? We got to find out who did this, right? So it's like he refuses to take accountability or responsibility, but he's freaking wearing a hot dog costume.
That's pretty funny.
That's the type of humor it is really, really funny. And even if you're like, some of them don't hit right, I guarantee you, if you watch enough of the episodes, there'll be some where you laugh so hard. There's one scene in that one skit in the first season. I don't know that I've ever laughed so hard at a skit. It was so funny. And in the second season, there's one where the guy eats this hamburger off of someone else's plate, and they're and he's like, "You're gonna tell, aren't you? We're never gonna tell this story. You're gonna tell. Well, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna film you. Say you want to kill the president. What? It's like, yeah, say you want to, and no one will ever see this video as long as this story never leaks."
There's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of workplace ones. There's one where he's sitting in his office eating lunch, and somebody comes in and says, "Hey, Bob's got to leave on a flight, so we're moving the meeting up." And he's like, "You can't do that. You can't move lunch. You can't move lunch. You can't just move lunch." So they're sitting in the meeting now in this boardroom, and he's wearing a suit, and you can see that he's got his hot dog in his sleeve, and he's leaning over like this, taking bites of the hot dog. And again, it's a jest point. It's an example of a guy that you're like, I just wish you would leave. So a great watch. Like Jeff said, they're not even like we another thing we talk about is 30-minute sitcoms are 22 minutes when they stream. They're even shorter than that. You can binge through the entire You could do 2 seasons in a night easily.
In 2 hours,
It's a
you'd
great
be
show.
done. It's like an hour and a half you're through a season.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's really funny. The fake commercials are great, and it's a great show. And Detroiters, if you can, the easiest thing to find Detroiters if you have an Apple TV, just hit your series, say Detroiters, it pops right up. It's an excellent show. So Tim Robinson's really funny. I hope he goes on to do bigger and better things. But yeah, highly recommend it.
Highly recommend it. So
hey, I just wanted to give one quick update. I know last week I did Flatbush misdemeanors. The episode this week was another hysterical piece with just another moment that just came out of nowhere that I literally laughing out loud in my house. I was laughing so hard I had to rewind it. My wife's like, "What the hell?" And I showed her. She hasn't even watched the entire show, but she was laughing out loud at that scene. It is really, really good. So
thank you, Lee. So everybody, Ted Lasso the new season starts on Friday.
Yep.
I believe.
I'm super pumped up about that.
I'm sure we're going to talk about something about that next week. And I got to say,
everybody from the show was nominated for an Emmy. Just about.
Oh, I know.
It's all the
WandaVision got like 100 nominations or something.
Don Cheadle got a nomination for his 98-second appearance.
He's like, I don't get it either. We got to wrap up. My wife texted me. Well, I told her she didn't watch Loki with me, which she watched WandaVision. I'm like, you watch the first episode. If you like it, I'll rewatch it with you. And she texts me, Loki is like Defending Your Life, the movie Defending Your Life, where he goes
a little bit.
Yeah,
that's a little bit.
Yeah. All right.
Which is one of the funniest movies of all time.
All time. We'll talk about it another week. All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us once again for another episode of Crossing the Streams. Howard, say goodnight.
Good night.
Tony, say goodnight. Tell us where we can find you again.
Go check out the Berardo podcast, available everywhere. Thanks for having me, guys. This was fun. Let's do it again.
Awesome. Zach, quick plug and say goodnight.
Hey, good night. I'm just some nobodies. That's it.
You're somebody to us, my friend. Ron, say goodnight.
Hey, good night, everybody. I'm literally a nobody, so have a great night, guys.
True.
And I'm Jeff Dwoskin, host of Live from Detroit, The Jeff Dwoskin Show. Check that podcast out. Join us again here every Wednesday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time for Crossing the Streams. We have now 32 episodes on YouTube. You can go to YouTube, search The Jeff Dwoskin Show, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Crossing the Streams, brought to you by SceneSnobs.com and part of the Jeff Dwoskin Show. Your hosts, of course, Jeff Dwoskin, Sal D'Amelio, Bob Phillips, Ron Lippett, and Howard Rosner. Follow us on the socials, and we'll see you next week and every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Mark your calendars. We're going live and crossing more streams.